Hi, we are live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Lunch and Learn for today. I am Stacy Nell. I'm the Executive Director of the Kansas African American Affairs Commission. And it just dawned on me, the tornado sirens are not going probably because it's raining. And so they probably are like, well, we don't want to scare people into thinking that there's bad weather. I don't know. But there's no tornado sirens today. I am thrilled to be joined by our State Treasurer Lynn Rogers. Hi, how are you?
Hey, I'm good. How about yourself today?
I'm hanging in. I can tell you are obviously on the road.
We've been in Wyandotte County this morning. We actually left Wichita at 6:30 and got to Wyandotte. And what was great was we got rained on the whole way, and so for at least part of the state, some of the drought is lifting. I'm hopeful, so we're encouraged. But we had some great visits up here in Kansas City today.
Good, fantastic. So we should make note that you are not driving.
Right, I have a staffer that's driving me, and we're just right on the highway. So
Okay, that was my first. When I first saw, I'm like, oh my gosh, are you driving? Like, we can reschedule. I'll figure
yeah,
something out.
I'm in
Okay,
the
so you
passenger seat.
good. So you are not driving. Fantastic. Well, thank you. I mean, obviously, thank you so much for taking some time out of your schedule today to talk to me about your office, what you do, and some of the programs that you have going on in your office. I've heard you speak several times, and I'm like, wow, this would be fantastic to have him on.
Yeah. Well, and we are trying to do everything we can to reach out to more communities. There are so many that just don't know what the state treasurer does, and there's some really good things that we do that can help improve the lives of ordinary Kansans, and so we want people to know about them.
Fantastic, fantastic. My first question I ask all my guests: lunch and learn. So, what are you having for lunch?
I actually had a pastrami at Brits in downtown Strawberry Hill, Kansas City, and it was great. And my partner with me had a Reuben, and that's what they're famous for. So they were great sandwiches.
I'm gonna have to go try because I do love a good Reuben, and I
Yeah.
often will grade a restaurant on how strong the Reuben is. So good
Well,
to know.
part of the fun of these travels is that we can try to do locally owned restaurants. This Bobby has owned this restaurant for 20 years and has done some amazing things there. And he said it was just an empty building, and now it's a very vibrant part of the community. So it's a great place to try for lunch.
Well, fantastic, fantastic. Okay, so we only have about a half an hour here, so I do want to
Okay.
ask you a couple questions. First of all, what does the state treasurer do? Like, this is one of these offices that people are like, I don't, I'm not even quite sure what the state treasurer does. So, what exactly
Well,
does your office encompass?
we and we go back a long ways. We actually the treasurer started 2 years before statehood, 1859, and in essence, we're kind of the state banker. So we make sure that the checking accounts are always accessible, that they get balanced every day, that we check the checks that are coming through, the deposits and whatnot. Make sure the money that comes in gets moved to the right department, to the right budget line item. We handle unclaimed property. We manage the Learning Quest 529 accounts. We issue all the state bonds for cities, counties, and school districts. So when a new school gets built or a highway gets built, we issue those bonds and make sure that those payments get made on time to keep Kansas's credit rating as good as we can. And then we also have a number of loan programs where we take idle state cash and we can loan those. We've got one for agriculture, one for economic recovery, and then we have one for housing, but it hasn't been very well used.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. And so I know when to have you on, there were a couple of programs specifically that you wanted to talk about. And the
Yes.
first one is this scholar shop. And I have to confess, I am very interested in this scholar shop program because I was not aware of it. And I have two middle school aged daughters. And I was sort
Oh,
of reading on the website and I was like, ooh, I need to know about this program. So
yes. Now's the time for you to start looking at that. It's a link on our website, kansascash.ks.gov. It's a partnership that we have with Sally Mae, and there are over 6 million scholarships for $30 billion. And what's exciting about that is like your student would go in, and you can even create it as a parent, but you'll list all the things that they have been involved in middle school and high school. You talk about maybe even what church you go to, if their parents have been in military, if they are living with a disability or a parent that has a disability. It will search that database to see what scholarships you might qualify for, and then it'll list those out. It'll give you a due date for when those scholarships are due, what the dollar amount is, and then also what the website is. And they've all been vetted. So, they're good websites, and you can go ahead and qualify. We'd love to see more Kansas kids jump into that and see if there's are scholarships that they might qualify for. We'd also like to remind people too that check with your local financial institution. If you're employed at a particular business, your parents are, you might qualify for those. Sometimes the local ones aren't shown on that website, but it's a great way to start your search. Some of these websites or scholarships will require a essay. Others require a video essay. Some you just have to put your name in, and we'd love to see kids take part. They're anywhere from $500 to $10,000. So there's some really well qualified, well worth scholarships to apply for.
Are these all scholarships that are offered by Kansas funding? Like, I don't know how to say it. Is it Kansas companies, Kansas funding?
These actually would be nationwide. So oftentimes they're major industries or major corporations that offer these scholarships. And what Sally Mae tells us is sometimes these scholarships, no one ever applies for them because they don't know about them or they don't think about them. And so I think there's an opportunity for a lot of Kansas kids to take part if they can.
So the money's there. We just have to know where to go to apply for it.
Exactly.
So it's like, is it one? So so it's not that this website will create an application for everyone. This is just sort of a clearinghouse of all this different scholarships. So a person may have to apply for
right
5 separate things.
Okay. It's kind of a database of scholarships. And when you go in and you'll sign up if they've been in volleyball or they played basketball, if they've been in Girl Scouts or Boy Scouts, if they've gone to and then they'll find scholarships that that are for kids that have those qualifications. And you can set up that if you qualify for 50% of the guidelines up to 75 or 100. We had a student that found that they could do the scholarships for speeches through VFW. There's other scholarships that certain church denominations offer, or if you're interested in even what you want to do in college, if you want to go into a particular field like science or engineering, there will be scholarships that are just for those academic followings.
Well, that's great. Because I know, sorting through the scholarships as my kids, because I have an 8th grader, so next year is high school, and I understand that there's that balance of, okay, I'll let you be a kid, but then there's part of me it's like, we got to figure out what you're going to do.
I think what's good about this too is, oftentimes that you can't start getting these scholarships until you're a junior. But what I tell people is if you qualify for them and get them, oftentimes they'll just send you a check. And what's really good then is you can just deposit that into your Learning Quest account, which is our 529 accounts. That's found on the same web page as our kansascash.ks.gov. You'll click on Learning Quest and it'll show you all the details. That's a program that as a parent or a grandparent, if you're opening those for kids, you get a $3,000 per person or $6,000 per person or per couple tax deduction off your Kansas taxes. And then all of the earnings are tax-free for 10 or 15 years, however long it's in the account, as long as it gets used for tuition or even a computer or housing fees and books, those types of things. That all will qualify under the 529.
Okay, and I've dropped the link to the 529 website into the chat as well, so that'll be there.
Oh, good.
And that's when, so even though, I as a parent would be opening this on behalf of my children, but I remember I heard you say like grandparents can open them on behalf of their grandchildren.
Yes, oftentimes grandparents will, and then the parents will just contribute to it as well, or vice versa. They can have separate accounts, or they can have the same one. The child, you name the child as the beneficiary, and if I open some for my grandkids, I named my children as the follow-up. So if something happens to me, they become the trustee, and then my grandson is the beneficiary. If he chooses not to go to college at age 18, we can move it to another grandchild, or we can even put it in the parent's name for the next generation. And what's good about these accounts too is it's not just limited to a 4-year college. They can use it for vocational training, for a union apprenticeship, or even their 2-year degree. So, or certifications. There's a lot of things that they can use it for now.
Well, that's fantastic. Yeah, because
Yeah.
I have one child who would like to go into cosmetology, and so that's not a 4-year program, but she could
Right.
use it for cosmetology.
Yeah, and if they have to buy, tools and equipment, oftentimes those can be used from these funds as well. And what's nice is we even have adults that are using these to go back. They've got their master, or their undergrad. They're going back for their masters or their graduate schools. They open them for themselves, and then they get the tax deduction while they're working, and then they can use this. And then the other thing that happens too is that up to 10,000 of it can be used to pay down student debt. So it's another way to get yourself out of debt and make school more affordable.
Oh, see, no, I didn't know that either.
Yeah.
Or maybe, I mean, I've heard you talk about the 529 program before, but it didn't land in me that this money can be used to pay down school debt.
Yeah. There's a lot of new things. We've been promoting it as much as we can. We've seen about a 33% increase since we've been promoting it. Many parents, I didn't even know about it, even though I was in the banking world for 40 years. It would have saved me having to declare a lot of student money I saved for my kids. Not that they were huge amounts, but I wouldn't have had to pay any interest on any of those as we pulled them out for tuition.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's fantastic. So I dropped the link for the 529 in the chat as well, so people can start looking at that and investing. I know when my children were born, we started talking about 529s, and so that's it. There's no time limit, right? I'm like when my
Right.
children were born, we started talking about
Yes.
529s.
Yeah, you could start when they're. I've got one family that started. The baby is not here yet, and they've opened it with their name as the beneficiary, and then they'll change it when the child comes. So
Right.
yeah.
So the rule, the lesson here is that it's never too early to start saving money for.
Exactly. And what a lot of families do is they, when their grandkids are grown, the grandparent keeps funding it for their great grandchildren. So parents can just change the beneficiary and move another child into that category when and if they come. So
Fantastic. So there's no limit as to who. So if we set one up for my children,
right.
grandparents, there's no limit to how many people can be sort of feeding into it.
Right. We also have there are some QR codes and some links that we will share, or a family can share, to aunts and uncles if they want to give a gift. Instead of buying a cheap plastic toy when the kids are little, they can put $25 in their niece or nephew's account. So, and we're looking at some other ways that we can enhance that and make that a little bit more usable also.
That's a fantastic idea.
Yeah.
All right, cool. And then the other, I mean, I thought the best part was the unclaimed property, but now I'm thinking the 529s and the scholar shop. I'm like, oh, that's the best part. You're just full of all kinds of good news. And then the unclaimed property.
Yeah, I always tell people the two things that we can do is, we can either give you money for unclaimed property or we give you a tax deduction. The two most favorite things that people like to have in their finances. And the unclaimed property, we do manage that. It's about a $400 million fund that we have in the state. It can be an old bank account that has been lost or forgotten about, a grandparent's stocks or bonds, or brokerage account. But it can also be, a final paycheck from some business. It can be a vendor check. It can be a rebate or refund. Oftentimes, money that you don't even know that's coming. If for some reason it doesn't get delivered to you by the mail, it goes back to the original issuer of the check. They hold it for a period of time, and then they're obligated to give it to us. And then it's our job to find that for people. So we'll have insurance policies that don't that pay out, that don't get delivered, rebates, refunds, those kinds of things. But oftentimes, and the other thing I like to encourage people as well is not just look for yourself or your family, but look for your nonprofit that you're involved in, or your business. We've got money for a lot of different organizations. We've returned about $100,000 to school districts, $40,000 to $50,000 to higher education, K-State, Wichita State. We've also sent a lot back to cities and counties. Even our legislators, we had money for 40 of the 165 legislators when I took office. So I went over there and shared that list with those 40 people, and hopefully we got a lot of them. They got their money back, but they didn't even realize we had unclaimed property for them. So
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think, for me, when I think it was a final paycheck. I think it was something like that. It was like a final paycheck
yeah,
for something it had just slipped my mind. I don't even know if I was even looking for it. It was interesting. So to
yeah,
think that even cities, so you would think a city would have a person or a department who's in charge of making sure all the money's coming to the city.
yeah,
To find out that cities are even missing out on some property
yeah.
here.
Yeah, and those final paychecks. Sometimes it's maybe some vacation time you didn't know that they owed you, or even a refund of you leave it the mid month and what you paid in for health insurance. There's a partial refund. And again, if you've moved after 6 months, then the mail doesn't get forwarded. So yeah, we want to find that for people. What's been fun about this job is when we see something. I was at a coffee shop in a little town, western Kansas. Um, couldn't find anything for the husband, but his wife had passed away a few years ago. Found $300,000 of life insurance money for her. It had been mailed to his address, but it was under her name, so the post office couldn't deliver it. And so those kinds of things are life changers. So
No kidding.
yeah,
That would be crazy.
yeah,
And so, and I feel like I always have to say this because when I was contacted by the office saying you have unclaimed property, I completely thought it was a fraud.
yeah.
I
Um,
completely, I was like, oh, this is like the prince in Nigeria or something crazy like that.
and I've had that experience. I had a business in Fort Scott. I called them 8 times before they finally believed I really was the treasurer, and we had $16,000 for them. And I tell people all the time there are fraudsters with unclaimed property. Um, they oftentimes will make the website look very similar to ours with my picture and information, but they charge a fee for it, and so we never charge a fee. And so you want to make sure that it's that. And we also finish our website is kansascash.ks.gov, and we don't use the .com or the .org. We want to use the kansasks.gov, and so and all you have to do is just go to that website kansascash.ks.gov and check your name, and if it's there, you should be able to claim it online by filling out some questions. If it's over a certain dollar amount, we'll send you some forms. And then again, if it's another higher dollar amount, we might need to have it notarized. But we have 4 or 5 staff people that their job is to answer your phone calls and walk you through all of that. You don't have to come to the office or anything like that, but we'll send a check to you as soon as we can.
Well, that's fantastic. So I've dropped the link of Kansas Cash into the chat as well, so people can go out there and find your unclaimed property. Chances are you've got some money. It may not be $300,000.
No, but I tell people even if it's $20, that's $20 you don't have now, and it's better in your bank account than mine. So I'm probably the only banker that'll tell you that. So
There you go. There you go. All right. I mean, is there anything else that you'd like to share? I mean, my audience isn't super wide, but I can do what I do what I can to
yeah.
try to get the word out.
Well, the other thing that we do have, we have 2 loan programs. One is, we take idle money, loan it to Kansans through a financial institution. It could be a credit union, a bank, or farm credit. One is for agriculture. The other is for what's called economic recovery. It was designed originally for COVID, but it lowers the interest rate 2% or up to 2% for what you could get through a commercial loan. So it's a program that's worth that for a number of businesses. We don't make the credit decision. That's the local bank that does that. So you do have to have some credit worthiness, but you can save some interest costs, and particularly with interest rates going up, we think that's a program that would be of interest as well.
What's the program called?
It's called our linked deposit accounts, and it's again under that same website, kansascash.ks.gov, and it's under our fiscal services department. So you can reach out to our website. We have an email capacity where you can send an email that just says, "I heard about these loan programs. Have somebody call me." We'll be glad to get back in touch with them.
Gotcha. I found it. Economic Recovery Loan Deposit Program.
Right. Uh-huh.
Okie dokie. Let's see if there's a.
And then we're always looking for ways that we can help improve the lives of Kansans. We're wanting, as our 529, you can make, regular deposits into that to save for education. We'd like to see one ultimately where it's for retirement savings for people that aren't covered by retirement. They could start saving directly. We need to go back to the legislature for that, but we're hoping that we can get some movement on that in the next year.
Gotcha. All right, I'm just getting my information together. I want to type down. It's the Kansas Economic Recovery Loan Deposit Program.
Right, exactly.
Okay. So I've got that linked, and the title is in the chat, so people can search that out on the webpage as well. Well,
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I mean, I know you're traveling, you got a busy day, and so thank you for taking the time out of your day to come and talk to me about these programs.
Well, thank you, and we hope we get the message out. The more unclaimed property and 529s we can get, we just think people will be in better financial condition, and when we help people get in a better financial position, that helps the state as well. So, thank you.
Definitely. All right. Well, I'm not at my full 30 minutes yet. So if there's anything else you wanted to toss out,
well, Kansas
sing a nice song or anything like that,
Yeah, Kansas is a big state. I've traveled about 65,000 miles since I became treasurer, and I think it's really important to get out and about. We also, oftentimes when we do these unclaimed property functions, coffees or we'll even go into grocery stores and stand in an aisle and talk to people. What we found is oftentimes they have other questions about state government. We're more than happy to take those. We can't always answer them, but we'll make sure that we get the answer to the right person or the question to the right person and see if they can get an answer for them. So encourage people to reach out to our email address, website anytime they want.
Well, thank you very much. I know you've been nothing but helpful and friendly to me, so I appreciate that. And I feel like we've been in a lot of events where we sort of overlap and cross paths with each other, so I really do appreciate this.
Exactly. Well, I think it's really important. I mean, you do a great job of helping Kansans understand, how our communities of color can be involved into our government, and if people don't work with folks in Topeka or state agencies, they oftentimes don't even know where to start. And so having a point of entry can get things started. The vast majority of state employees really want to do what's best for Kansans and will try to answer questions. But if it's not their area, they really can't. But we can sure get it to the right area if we need to.
All right.
Great.
Well, thank you so much. We'll call it for today. Thank you so much.
Right.
Thanks everyone for joining us. And then next week is Halloween. So I'm like, do I take a break for Halloween or do we come back? We'll figure it out. But that is it for today. Thanks everybody. Bye.
Great. Bye-bye.